Hey everyone, and welcome to today's explainer. Look, if your indoor plants keep dying and you're just totally fed up with hearing people say, "Oh, but plants are so easy," I completely hear you. It's incredibly frustrating, right? You go to the nursery, they hand you this gorgeous green fern, they swear up and down it's virtually unkillable, and bam, 3 weeks later you're staring at a sad, crispy stick. Well, today our goal is to uncover the uncomfortable truth about why those so-called easy plants keep giving up the ghost. We're going to build a really comprehensive, super easy to follow system for plant care, looking directly at what the botanical experts actually tell us.
Just listen to this quote for a second. Most plants don't die because people forget to water them. That totally flips the script on what we expect, doesn't it? We literally always assume neglect is the ultimate killer. But the truth is, beginners are actually incredibly attentive. They're very often accidentally killing their plants with what they genuinely think is excellent care. By trying so hard to keep their leafy friends happy, they end up doing the exact opposite of what the plant actually needs to survive. We are quite literally smothering them with love.
To fix this, we need a solid game plan, not just some rambling list of random tips. So here's our agenda for today's explainer. First, the water and drainage trap. Second, light, location, and climate. Third, soil, pots, and species. Fourth, reading the warning signs. And finally, number 5, the perfection myth.
Okay, let's dive right into this, starting with Chapter 1, the water and drainage trap. We're going to see exactly why giving your plant more love usually just equals rapid decay. This brings us to a massive, just incredibly common misconception. The myth is that yellow leaves instantly mean a thirsty plant. But the factual reality? Yellow leaves very often mean a drowning plant. Yeah, indoor plants usually die from way too much water, not too little. Here's the tragic paradox of overwatering. When soil stays wet for too long, the roots are essentially trapped underwater. Because they can't get any oxygen, they suffocate and begin to rot away. And here is where it gets super confusing. A plant with rotted roots can no longer absorb water. So you look at it, it visually looks thirsty and wilted, you panic, you water it more, and you accidentally just speed up its total demise. So how do we break this destructive cycle? It's remarkably simple. Honestly, throw away your watering schedule. Just stop watering every Sunday just because it happens to be Sunday. Instead, use the finger test. Before you even touch that watering can, check the soil. Just stick your finger an inch or two down beneath the surface. If it feels even slightly damp, wait, just walk away. It is truly that straightforward. Remember this golden rule. Plants absolutely do not care about human calendars. They solely follow environmental conditions. They drink faster when it's hot and sunny, and much slower when it's cool and cloudy. Which leads us perfectly into another hidden danger, drainage. Drainage holes provide a completely non-negotiable escape route for water. If you drop a plant directly into a beautiful, solid decorative pot that has no hole at the bottom, you're literally creating a death trap. The excess water has nowhere to go. It just pools at the bottom, keeping the roots soaking wet and inviting immediate rot. But there's a huge, incredibly simple fix for this. It's called the kasha pot method. Just keep your plant in its ugly plastic nursery pot, the one with the holes, and place that whole thing entirely inside your beautiful decorative container. When it's time to water, you simply take the plastic pot out, water it in the sink, let it drain completely, and pop it right back in. Easy. All right, moving on to Chapter 2, light, location, and climate. Let's talk about how to map your microclimates, shifting our focus from watering habits to the physical environment of your indoor jungle.
Now, what's really interesting here is this massive misunderstanding about the term low-light plants. People see that label at the hardware store and think, oh, awesome, I can finally put this in my windowless bathroom. But low light absolutely does not mean no light. It simply means these specific plants tolerate less light better than others. It's about mere survival, not healthy, vigorous growth. Sure, sticking a pothos in a dim hallway might keep it alive for a while. But remember, plants use light to physically make their own food. In the dark, they are essentially slowly starving. The plant will suffer from stunted growth, tiny leaves, and weak, leggy stems. So if your plant is stretching or looking sparse, it might actually be begging for more light, not more water. Where you place your plants matters immensely because, well, not all sunlight is equal. Think of your windows as completely different climate zones inside your house. A south-facing window, that's basically your indoor desert. It provides the strongest, harshest, most direct light. East-facing windows offer a gentle, cool morning light. And north-facing windows act a lot more like a shaded forest canopy, providing much softer, indirect light. So a delicate, moisture-loving fern sitting in the scorching afternoon sun of a south window is going to crisp up in days. Meanwhile, a sun-worshipping succulent hidden away in a north-facing bedroom is going to slowly stretch and struggle. Very often, the plant itself isn't failing. The real estate placement is just wrong. But hey, once you do find that perfect spot, leave it there. Plants desperately need stability. Beginners often get nervous and move their plants constantly, putting them in the window today, on the bookshelf tomorrow, the kitchen next week, just frantically searching for that sweet spot. But plants adapt to their environment over time. They slowly, physically adjust their leaves to the light direction, the room temperature, the local humidity. Imagine how exhausted you'd be if someone relocated you to a totally different climate every 3 days. If you move a plant, you've got to give it weeks to properly adapt before deciding it hates the location. Transitioning now to Chapter 3, Soil, Pots, and Species. Let's look at the physical materials supporting the plant, starting with the specific rules of the plants themselves. Look, applying a one-size-fits-all approach is just a guaranteed recipe for failure. Take a snake plant and a peace lily, for example. You might have them sitting side by side on the exact same shelf, getting the exact same light, but they live by completely different biological rules. The snake plant is a rugged survivor. It literally stores water in its thick leaves and prefers drying out entirely between waterings. The peace lily, on the other hand, it wants more consistent, even moisture. Succulents, tropical ferns, monsteras, they all wildly disagree on what constitutes good care. Trying to create a single, synchronized watering routine for every plant in your house just doesn't work. Taking even 5 minutes to research the specific native environment of the species you own is going to save you months of frustration. And when it comes to pots, always remember this exact number, 1, as in only go up exactly 1 pot size when you're repotting. New plant owners often assume a bigger, roomier pot equals a much happier plant, so they'll take a tiny plant and jump it up 3 sizes at once, thinking they're giving it room to grow. But here is the hidden danger. When a pot is far too large for the root system, that massive amount of extra soil holds on to a massive amount of extra moisture. It takes forever to dry out, which dramatically increases the risk of root rot. Your plant essentially ends up swimming in wet mud. Just wait until the roots are heavily circling the bottom or literally growing out of the drainage holes, and then, carefully, just go 1 single size up. And inside that perfectly sized pot is another crucial foundation we really can't ignore. Soil isn't just basic dirt from the yard. It is a complex, critical life support system. High-quality mixes need to be chunky and airy. Different plants demand entirely different textures to thrive. Desert succulents need gritty, fast-draining mixes full of sand or perlite. Jungle tropicals often prefer a mix that retains a bit more moisture but still provides excellent airflow around those roots. If your soil is just heavy, dense, compacted peat moss, it acts exactly like a wet sponge. It will trap water and suffocate the roots entirely, even if your watering technique is absolutely flawless. So the crucial point here is being able to observe and react, which brings us to Chapter 4, reading the warning signs and understanding plant language. Plants are constantly speaking to us. They just communicate through a sort of slow-motion sign language. They use these silent visual messages, things like a sudden wave of yellowing leaves, crispy brown edges that just shatter when you touch them, dramatic drooping, stretching toward the light, or unexpectedly dropping seemingly healthy leaves. The earlier you notice these subtle changes, the easier they are to course correct. Now, a single isolated yellow leaf at the very bottom of the plant, that isn't always panic-worthy. Plants naturally shed older leaves as they grow, but patterns matter deeply. If you see multiple yellow leaves rapidly forming, accompanied by heavy drooping and soft, mushy stems, yeah, that is your plant desperately sounding the alarm. Observe these broader signs before you take any drastic, irreversible action. And that brings us to our final and honestly most emotional chapter, the perfection myth. Let's talk about permanently releasing that plant guilt and dismantling the absolute biggest psychological barrier for beginners. Let's see how this all builds up. Social media constantly shows us these totally flawless, glossy monsteras and absolute indoor jungles, perfectly framed on a pristine, aesthetic phone screen. But what is hidden just out of frame? The failed propagation cuttings. The hidden crispy leaves they just snipped off right before taking the photo. The expensive plants that ended up straight in the compost bin. Listen, every single plant owner kills plants. Master gardeners kill plants, sometimes they kill a lot of them. Letting go of this toxic illusion of social media perfection actually makes you a far more observant, relaxed, and ultimately much better caretaker. When you aren't paralyzed by the fear of a single brown tip, you can finally actually enjoy the process of growing. So here is your ultimate foundational takeaway for today. You are not failing. You're learning. Every dead plant is just a lesson in microclimates, lighting, and root health. Indoor gardening is absolutely not about keeping every single leaf looking as perfect as a plastic replica. It's simply about understanding living, breathing things just a little bit better each time you try. Once you stop obsessively trying to be the flawless plant parent, you finally give yourself the freedom to become a highly observant, capable one. So I leave you with this final thought to ponder. What small adjustment will change your plant's future today? Seriously, if your leafy companions have been struggling lately, don't throw them in the trash just yet. Go check their lighting. Evaluate their soil texture. Try doing that simple finger test before you water them next. Just one tiny, informed adjustment can completely turn a dying plant's trajectory around. If this explainer helped you understand your indoor jungle a bit better and maybe made you feel a little less guilty, make sure to subscribe. We have plenty more structured insights coming that might just save your absolute favorite plant. Keep observing, ditch that rigid watering schedule, and I will see you next time.